Hey everyone, this week we're getting ready to watch Home Alone. You see Damian shaking his head, but he's the one who chose this one.
I know this has a lot of special meaning to a lot of people out there, and you're about to watch me ruin your whole Christmas holiday.
Not mine. Hello, welcome to the Damian and Devlin Show. This is our review of Home Alone, the 1990 family comedy that was directed by Chris Columbus.
I'm very glad you didn't say classic, because it is not a classic.
Starring Macaulay Culkin, John Hurd, Catherine O'Hara, Joe Pesci, and Daniel Stern. And you can already get an idea, even probably before the credits, that Damian is not a fan of this movie, which was surprising because he actually chose this one. So I have a feeling that he's picked it because he wants to pick a fight with Home Alone.
I do.
And so on that behalf, I'm going to let him take over for a bit, and I will just enjoy his words and try to rebuff with everything he says that isn't right.
All right. Well, I don't think you're going to enjoy most of my words. But anyways, it's Home Alone. It's a Christmas classic, as people call it. And the reason I did choose this is because it does have a lot of pop culture references, especially in this day and age. A lot of people look highly and fondly on this movie, and it means a lot to them. And I'm about to ruin that for them. And I don't like Home Alone. I'm just gonna state that. I don't like this movie. I didn't like this movie. I've never liked this movie. I've never liked this movie franchise. It just, to me, seemed like, oh, Die Hard for kids, but just not as inventive, not as good. And that's just my opinion. But I'm gonna explain why when we get into it. Why don't you tell everybody, those that haven't seen Home Alone, what it's all about?
All right, it's the story of a 8-year-old boy, Kevin McAllister, who his family is getting ready to go to Paris, and accidentally they leave him by himself. And by the time they hit Paris, that's when they realize that they do not have their youngest son. What makes things worse is that a couple of crooks are eyeballing the neighborhood a couple of days before Christmas Eve and are planning to strike on his house. When Kevin finds this out, he has to do something about it.
That's basically it, yeah.
That's basically it. There's a lot of little subplots in that I will talk about later. But so, do you want the happiness? This is one of those cases, do you want the good news or the bad news? Why don't we start with yours to keep this a little Christmassy?
See, I'm trying to word this in a way that's not going to just be me crapping all over it. Because even though I don't like this movie, I do have things that I like about the movie. So
shall we do those first?
Well, no, because I want to keep that for the spirit of the Christmas season.
Okay, so we're actually going to start. Okay, well, you better start with the negatives because I don't have many.
There are no shortage of negatives. Okay, let's first off start with the asinine plot of this movie. This family has their extended family come and they leave for Paris without one of their children. And yeah, they try to shoehorn believable ways into getting around this as to why Kevin's been left home alone. And you know what? It just doesn't make sense. It makes absolutely zero sense to me whatsoever as to how this kid gets left alone. And if we ever do get around to watching Home Alone 2, I'm probably gonna rip it apart even more. But focusing just on this, they throw this random kid into the mix who's counted as Kevin, and then somehow make it on the plane, mind you, where they would have had to spend some time in the van, realizing that Kevin is not there. And then also, when you're in the airport getting onto the plane, making sure all your kids are sitting where they need to sit. They didn't notice that Kevin is not there? Like, come on. There's no way they would not have noticed this child. Even the most neglectful of parents would have been like, that's bad parenting. That's just, I can't get over it. The plot of this movie for me just does not work right from the get-go because of that. I do like a couple of things that happen. I'll get to those in a second. But another thing that just hits me right off the bat with this movie is Macaulay Culkin himself. I can't stand this kid. And you know what? He may have been a child sweetheart in the early 90s, late 80s. He sucks. He sucks. There's nothing good about Macaulay Culkin. He does look, oh, oh, and oh, he's so cute. That's the only thing he has going for him, is the fact that he's a cute kid. He is so dramatic with his acting that James Dean blushes from the grave. He delivers the corniest lines in the most late 80s, early 90s way possible. It's just so bad. Every time this kid is on screen, I have to think, oh, wait, I can't wait to see Joe Pesci, because hopefully he'll catch him and beat the crap out of him. And that's not how I should be feeling about this 8-year-old child. I'm literally rooting for the Wet Bandits to beat the crap out of this kid. What are you looking for?
I was wondering when the 3 ghosts were going to be showing up.
What 3 ghosts?
In A Christmas Carol to tell you, that...
Oh, yeah, I'm Scrooge, apparently, because Macaulay Culkin is a bad actor.
No, continue. Sorry, I'm just having fun. I'm singing Christmas carols in my head while I'm not listening to you.
The family is so forgettable, except for the mother. The father, first of all, what does he do for a living? They have this beautiful, gorgeous house. They can afford to buy $112 worth of pizza on the night before they take this first-class trip with their relatives all the way to Paris, France during Christmas. What does he do for a living? I said he must be a politician of some sort. You made a good point that maybe the wife is in fashion design because the house has an ungodly amount of mannequins for some reason.
And ungodly is only 2, but I don't have any mannequins in my home.
I don't have any mannequins.
Most people, I do know some people that have a couple, but I would think just 2 is ungodly in this case.
So besides the mother, there's just forgettable characters all around. I don't even know the dad's name. I only know his one brother's...
John Hurd.
That's his real name. I only know the one brother's name, Buzz, because he's such an ugly kid that I also wanted to personally punch him in the face. And he's such a dweeb to his brother, too. I felt like the whole family just craps on Kevin for no reason. He's an 8-year-old kid and he wants some attention, and nobody gives this kid any attention. And then there's a scene in it right before they leave him behind where the whole family just basically says, Kevin, your feelings aren't valid, you are a piece of garbage, and we wish that you weren't here. Even the uncle. If my brother, an uncle to my son, told my son that he's a jerk, that brother ain't going to Paris with me. No way. But the whole family just stands there, and everybody has a chance basically to verbally abuse this kid. And there's just so much wrong with the family. There's so much wrong with the plot. There's so much wrong with Macaulay Culkin as an actor. I'm over it. I'm just over it. You can go ahead and tell everybody how much you love this movie now, because I'm over it.
Well, if we're sticking with negatives, then I have to put my
few
in there.
Few.
There is only a few, because I like Home Alone. I remember seeing this when it came out, and I must remind you that while we're filming this is actually the 30th year anniversary, so thank me later for making you feel
old yet?
You dirty animal. But I remember going opening weekend to this, and we didn't know what to really expect, except we saw the trailers and stuff. But what I meant with not knowing what to expect was it was packed. We didn't realize that we were watching something that was going to become a phenomenon in Christmas, because mostly you hear about these movies that flopped at Christmas that become classics, like It's a Wonderful Life.
Good movie.
Miracle on 34th Street, Christmas Vacation, Christmas Story, all movies that didn't do well at the box office. Home Alone, for the longest time, was the #1 comedy of all time.
Unreal. I can't believe that.
Anyhow, we went and it was packed, and we didn't know we were going to become a part of history. Now, I really liked the movie a lot. I like a lot of John Hughes films, and I believe he helped write this movie, because even though Chris Columbus directed it, it has a John Hughes feel. It's set in Chicago. It deals with family and a lot of family bashing in there. Since we're sticking on negatives first, so we get that Christmas feel, though I think we need it big time. I think I need some ghosts to show up to help me.
Where's the eggnog?
My only really problems is, yes, there are some problems with the script. But I don't think they're any different than some of the problems we've seen in Die Hard's a very clever script, but I think I mentioned in my review of Die Hard 2 some of the problems in that. So I think a lot of movies have problems. My biggest problems is he uses a videotape.
Who?
Kevin McAllister uses a videotape.
Oh, yeah.
And he plays this one scene over, and he uses it with the pizza boy, and he uses it with Daniel Stern at one point when he fears he's in trouble at that point. And it's basically a gangster movie, and he uses it to show there's adults home. Now, I have no problem with this. I have a little more problem with this when they use it again in the second one.
Oh,
but,
do they? Wow.
But what I have problems with is not only do I not believe that the little TV that it's coming out of would have a sound system that would make you believe that.
It sounds like there's a whole movie theater in the house.
Right, and like this is a little crappy TV that they use in the kitchen that we're talking VHS tapes. VHS tapes did not have Dolby sound unless you had a full stereo sound. Yet these people totally buy. Now, the part I have the problem is that he seems to have this excellent ability of fast forwarding to the exact part that he always needs to get to. Now, even if it's a movie you watched over and over again, you might be able to do it, but it is implied when he first watches this movie just the night before. So I find it hard to believe that he's like, so that's one problem. My other little problem is some of the attack attempts on him, and I'm not going to go violent, but when they go really Looney Tunes, it's really crazy.
What do you mean Looney Tunes? I didn't know. So I know there's a lot of kind of childish, clever violence in it, but I didn't notice it going Looney Tunes.
Looney Tunes? Well, yeah, when there's a scene, and there's some mild spoilers, but it's been 30 years if you haven't seen Home Alone now. But if you're young and want to see it, then come back and watch
it. Yeah.
You know, Damian's only getting started with this movie.
I am. There's a whole other Christmas cake to go.
So anyhow, there's a part where Marv's character gets literally burned twice. Now, with his hand, they kind of deal with that okay. But then there's a part where he actually has like a, what is that, a fire...
It's kind of like an extinguisher that shoots fire. It looks like a fire extinguisher that shoots fire.
And
a tank,
when it hits him on the top of his head, he just screams for what seems like 30 seconds.
Okay, now I feel it.
And I think if you get burned, your first reaction would be to pull your head out.
Well, yeah,
but
he that's what he did with the handle.
Right.
He touched it and went, ah.
But when I say Looney Tunes, not only does he sit there to scream for 30 seconds and stays on it, but he doesn't seem to really, you see some burns, but he would have like major third-degree burns, and he would not be interested in robbing a house. You'd be interested in getting to the nearest thing.
There were so many times when these attacks failed that I was just like, it's not worth it. It's not worth it.
And there's totally, they have put up with everything. And then there's a part where Kevin swings to his treehouse, and at this point, they now have the house to themselves. As far as we know, Kevin can't slide back because he'd be sliding upwards. He'd literally have to climb. Yep. So now's their time. If they really want to do anything, they could steal a whole bunch of stuff and leave. But they're just like, I understand there's a revenge element for harming them, but what were they going to do? Were they actually going to kill him? Like,
I think they were going to kill him. I think they were going to straight up kill Kevin.
So, and I'm going to mention something that you did, and I'll give it a little more on this one. It's Marv doesn't seem like the brightest person in the book, but Joe Pesci's character seems like he's actually thought of a lot of this stuff out. But his partner seems to have made lots of multiple mistakes, and I don't understand why somebody like Marv would team. And I'm going to give you this one, because you made a comment.
You keep calling them both Marv.
I think Marv is Joe Pesci, and then...
I think Marv's the other guy.
Oh, okay. I might be wrong. Okay, so Joe Pesci, we'll call him. He seems like he's done this regularly. He stakes out the house. Like, it's pretty smart. But then you have Daniel Stern's character who seems to, like, keep doing things that piss Joe Pesci off.
Yeah.
And I think they would have probably stopped working together by now.
Yeah, they're criminals. Why would they risk going to jail together for his mistake?
I just found a lot of it became really Looney Tunes, and I know it gets worse in the second one, and I actually kind of like the second one still, but besides that, that's my problems. I just think that there's an element of going beyond. I think once you get burned, to that degree, I'd be surprised if he wouldn't even pass out from the pain.
You probably, I don't know. Everybody's different with their pain tolerance. But another huge glaring issue to me with this movie, before we get into what we actually enjoyed about it, because it's not all negative, folks. There is a major plot point right at the beginning where there's a huge power outage, which causes the family to be rushing in the morning because they missed their alarm. And this is also made very clear by the technician working on the power lines that the phones are going to be out indefinitely. He says at least several days. And yes, several days do pass in the film. However, there's no mention made that the phones are back up and running. None at all. You constantly see Kevin's parents calling and nothing. They can't get through. They're just hitting a voice machine, which is understandable because the phone lines are down. And then suddenly, while the crooks are invading the house, Kevin calls 911. And that makes no sense to me whatsoever. It's a huge, major plot hole, because if he has full ability to call the police, he should have theoretically called them way before. I mean, when it starts to sink in that your parents are gone and he doesn't know where they are at this point, you'd think the kid would have been, oh, I don't know where my parents are. He gets scared. And especially when two people are trying to bust into his house. Call 911. That's what we ingrain into all of our children. But he can't because the phone lines are out until suddenly he can, which is really a huge plot point for me.
And he could have easily called before he set up the little trap. You could have still done this movie with doing that. But if you're going to go that far, then I'll point out another major plot twist that you might be able to reboot. We see him in town quite often.
Yes.
You're telling me there's no fire station, police station? He goes to a church at one point. You could easily talk to anybody. Now, there weren't that many people at the church, but I'm sure a priest could get a car to the,
A priest is a respectable public figure that kids are taught to trust. And Kevin, obviously, and his family are clearly made out to be Christian. So they possibly go to this church, and they possibly know this pastor. It's just a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, and I do have a little bit of problems with the fact that it's not a problem, but what I always took from it, and I don't know if it's right or not, is Kevin's 8 years old, and I always get the feeling that he's afraid that if he goes to the police or the fire, because he was so abused and always like, you're bad and stuff like this, I get the feeling he thinks that he might get in trouble.
Ooh, we're analyzing, psychoanalyzing Kevin. That's actually a very good point. He might be, because it's clearly shown, like I said, he is a neglected kid, and that's not healthy for your mental psyche.
And I don't think it's a neglect as in the parents do it on I think when you have a family, I only had 2 older brothers, but I think when you have that many kids in the house, there's going to be moments where each kid is going to feel neglected at times. But I get the feeling Kevin is afraid to go talk to a person. That's what I'm going to go with.
You like this movie a lot more than I do, so gush over.
Okay, I have to rebuke on Macaulay Culkin. He is cute.
He is.
He is adorable. He's charming. Yes, he is a little green at parts, but he is just entertaining to watch. When he says things that he has trouble with, I think it is very sweet. I think he also is he lands the emotional parts. There's a scene with him and a neighbor that he's totally afraid of, that they have a talk in the church. And I think it helps that he's with a veteran actor. I don't know the actor personally, so I don't know if he's a well-known actor. But they have a charming way with each other, and it's a beautiful scene. I also like the Macaulay Culkin character a lot because of the fact that he nails everything he has to. You do see that he gets scared. You do see that he has issues. You do see that he is a normal kid at first, where, there's a beautiful moment, one of my favorites, where he's actually terrified, saying, oh my God, I wished my family away. Then he thinks of all the horrible things they said, and then he says the same line with a look like, I wished my family away. And then you see him doing all the stuff, jumping on beds, making a mess. But as the movie grows, he starts cleaning up the house. He starts trying to get to know things. He lets the old man sit next to him at church, where you see he's terrified of him. You see that he wants to defend his house, where before he was like, I want to be anywhere but around you people. So I think as an actor for that age, he actually nails it. And for me, and I can't speak for Damian, maybe some of you, I actually think he's not only entertaining and charming, and yes, he does have a couple of rough areas, but he doesn't hit that annoying peak that a lot of child actors can.
No. See, yeah, he hit that annoying peak way early in the movie for me.
See, I don't know if you're familiar with other stuff he did, but he's really good in movies like My Girl, Good Son. It's too bad he stopped acting. Maybe he just lost that cuteness and people didn't want to...
No offense, Mr. McCulkin, but you definitely did lose your cuteness.
Yeah, well, I just think that... I really think that he is one of the biggest things in this movie. I do like the script. I think some of the script is crazy. As I said, it hits Looney Tunes.
It's just Die Hard for kids.
But no, because Die Hard didn't have as much emotional investment.
Oh, what are you talking about?
No, there wasn't. You didn't see like a scene. There's no scene in Die Hard that's like the scene in the church with the old man and that. There's no scene except...
Are you kidding me?
No.
John McClane on the radio talking to the cop? Give me a break. Now, I'm not going to disagree with you. I love that scene. It's actually my favorite scene in the movie.
And I do like Die Hard better than this movie.
You're damn right you do.
But I am just saying that I think that our lead actor learns a little more about himself than Bruce Willis does.
And I'll give it to that. But Macaulay Culkin had an opportunity to run with it, and he instead fell on his face.
I do have to say that you did like my idea that they should have cast Bruce Willis and Bonnie Bedelia and made Kevin McAllister Kevin McClane or something
Jack
like that.
McClane,
I think this should have been a multi-universe, and it should have
been
John
been
McClane.
So much better movie.
There you go. I knew you'd love that.
They could have literally called it Die Hard Junior. That's what they could have called it.
Besides that, I'm not going to gush too much about this movie. I have so many other favorite Christmas movies. I don't hate this movie as much as you do. I actually kind of like it. But I do know that some people could have problems with it. I'm not even against the violence, to be honest with you. I actually like seeing a kid, because there's some awesome kids out there in the world. But I do know some kids that wouldn't even clean up their room or pick up anything, help with chores. And to see a kid that actually wants to defend his home, to me, is a positive message. I know some people look at it as, oh, look at all this violence. But I think a kid that wants to make his family home safe, I got to give it to that.
Yeah, kudos to Kevin.
So let's see here your...
I like a lot of aspects of this movie. Like I said, it's not a complete garbage fire. I like aspects of it. Like I said, that aforementioned scene in the church with the old man is a great scene. And then the whole wrapping up of his subplot at the end of the movie, bang on. It was a really good, heartwarming subplot. And I'm glad that it accompanied the garbage fire that is the rest of the movie. But one thing I did really actually like about this movie, genuinely from start to finish, John Williams' soundtrack. I really, really enjoyed the music.
And I forgot John Williams actually did this, because usually he's with Spielberg all the time.
I'm always talking about how much I love John Williams, and even in a movie that I really don't like, he hits his soundtrack way out of the park once again. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, he had some ones that actually paid tribute, I think, to old Christmas songs. Like there's one where it sounds like they're going into Carol of the Bells, and then he goes off. If you want to talk music, they don't use a lot of it, but this introduced me to a different style of White Christmas. I was used to the very Bing Crosby version, but I kind of like how the Drifters put that doo-wop to the White Christmas. And they also use great little other songs. I believe they use Run, Run, Rudolph when they're running late by Chuck Berry. And I like that they use that old style, Rocking Around the Christmas Tree.
This was actually the very first time in my life that I'd heard Rocking Around the Christmas Tree, and it's because of this movie that I like that song so much. So again, another credit to it.
And they used the original artist. They didn't try to remake it.
So again, the music all throughout this movie is phenomenal. I do really like the way that some of the scenes are shot as well. I feel like the director did a great job, especially when it delves into Kevin's imagination as a child running rampant, especially when he goes into his basement at one point. The whole the heater that heats the whole house, his imagination runs wild, and there's some awesome scenes there. Even when it shows scenes outside, just the way they kind of zoom in suddenly on a tree branch, plays with that, oh my gosh, that's long creepy fingers at the window on a dark cold night coming to get me. And I feel like that was filmed really well done. I felt like I was in a child's mind for those shots. So again, it's shot very beautifully, and the music accompanies all these scenes very well. I can't say much about any of the attire. I mean, they just look like regular people at Christmas time in 1990, so I can't really say much about that. But I do like aspects of this film. Don't get me wrong. It does have its moments. It's just overall the complete package to me. It's like getting a Christmas present on Christmas Day that you're really looking forward to, and you've been looking at it under the tree for days, weeks, possibly even months, depending on how you celebrate Christmas in your home, and you're like, this is it. This is it. They finally got me the present, and you open it up, and it's socks. And it's just the most disappointing feeling in the entire world, and you kind of have to go, hey, yeah, thanks, socks. This is exactly what I wanted. When deep down you're thinking, this is garbage. And that's how I have to feel when I talk about this movie to people. But I'm done. I'm done hiding my true feelings about this movie. What are you giving it?
Well, if I can go on It's a Wonderful Life in a past review, you can take on Home Alone. I still have taken on the bigger film, but this is pretty big. As I said, Home Alone, to me, I get a nice feeling watching it, but I would still pick maybe 20 other Christmas movies to watch before Home Alone.
Die Hard 2, Die Hard again, Die Hard a third time. Maybe Die Hard 2 again.
I'm just going to get to my numbers.
Lethal Weapon.
I'm going to, don't forget Rent. Nobody ever talks about Rent. But one thing, close your ears for a minute. This is for me and my...
Oh, it's for you and your fan.
This is for me and my one fan. Thanks for that. Merry Christmas. What Home Alone does have over Die Hard, never ever was questioned if it was a Christmas film. They'll still be talking about that in 30 years. We knew it was a Christmas film from day one. All right.
Good?
Yes.
Good?
Anyhow, I will give this a 4 out of 5. I know I'm being generous, but it is the Christmas season. I probably should only go a 3.5, but there are some. But you know what? I'm going to give that extra half because of Macaulay Culkin.
Oh my God. You're just doing that to be spiteful.
Yes, 4 out of 5.
Spiteful. No, that's a sin, and Santa is coming for the naughty folks.
No, what's a sin is that you use garbage fire on a Christmas review. People are sitting there roasting their chestnuts, getting ready to enjoy a nice thing, and they hear the word garbage fire, you know?
Sorry. Yes, we're roasting this movie over an open fire.
I don't remember calling It's a Wonderful Life. It's a garbage fire. Anyhow, I love his honesty. That's what I love.
My honesty is what makes this review happen. Honestly, we need people like me in the world. So for those of you that agree with me, rock on, and have yourself a merry little Christmas. As for what I'm giving this movie, this garbage fire of a movie, I have a total of 5, but I have only got 2 thumbs, so they go way down. It gets 2 out of 5 for me. It had some enjoyable moments. I really liked the heartwarming subplot. I really liked the soundtrack. Those are the only 2 aspects that get it, but this movie's still a dud to me.
All right.
There we go. Thank you so much for joining us for our special Christmas edition of Home Alone. We really hope you and your family stay safe this holiday season. Make sure you curl up next to your own garbage fire and watch our review. Let us know what you think down in the comments below. Are you on Team Devlin or are you on Team Damian? Did you love Home Alone? Did you not like it? Let us know. Subscribe so you never miss what's coming out in the new year, as well as everything after that. We love having you. Thank you so much. Have yourself a merry little Christmas.
Home Alone, a new comedy from John Hughes, directed by Chris Columbus.
You guys give up, or you're thirsty for more?
Coming this Christmas.
Alright. That should do it. Some aftershave.